What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have not talked about the NBA playoffs in quite some time. With the NFL draft going on, obviously that has been a bit of a conflict of scheduling, but we're here to talk about the NBA playoffs. Things have not gone according to plan, as from the last time we've talked about things, who would have thought that we'd be looking at a scenario in which we could potentially be getting a Heat-Sixers conference championship? Anyway, before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm very good. I went to a resort yesterday in Sedona, which is about an hour south of Flagstaff, and it's a very beautiful town with mountains everywhere. And I learned that at these resorts and hotels, you can buy day passes. You don't have to stay overnight. You could just go into the resort or hotel and use the amenities. So that's what I did. It was awesome.
What do you mean a day pass?
Like, it cost $30, and I just went into this resort and I just chilled at the pool and the hot tub. Me and my girlfriend, we went down and just had a day at a resort, and it wasn't an overnight stay. I didn't know that you could buy the day passes, which was just a revelation to me, and something I would encourage everybody to try, because it was, it was just a nice little resort. So that is that. I had a good day. Yes. And now nice. I'm here talking to you guys.
Matt, how are you hanging up? I know you're working on your kitchen right now.
Yep, just working on the house. Had a good time in Miami this weekend. We were out at Brick Street and we saw Sean McVay. Shout out to him.
Shout out Sean McVay.
Why was he there?
He was getting inducted into the Cradle of Coaches.
Oh, because he was Mr. Ohio, wasn't he?
Well, he went to Miami.
Oh, okay. That makes way more sense. I was like, what is Sean McVay doing in Blaiden's college town? I didn't put that together when you were showing me
He's actually
the
there to see me, you know.
Oh, you're there to talk ball. He's the new podcast guest.
Yeah, he was asking what I think the Rams should do this offseason to improve their team, what schemes they should implement to their offense.
He said Blaiden Kirk, I need some advice.
Yeah.
I've seen your rebuilds on Madden. Matt, when you say you're working on your kitchen, how much do you do any of that, like, yourself with your roommates? Are you guys going to work with like hammers and stuff trying to fix it?
I'm like getting everything back into the kitchen and setting everything up and washing every single dish we own and things like that. Not like, here I am.
It's broken. You have your hard hat.
Right.
Your nails.
General contractor, Matt.
No.
You're not getting your hands.
Skill set at all. I got soft hands.
I do too. It's okay.
It's okay. We all got soft hands.
We're podcasters. We are not handymen. It's still impressive.
I want you guys to try and make a top 100 songs of all time list.
Oh, you already had this.
I know. I would like to compare, but I know it takes a while to do. But if you
I just have a running
chance,
playlist of my songs that are my favorites. I don't know how many it's at. It's at 50. I'll let you know when it's 100 and then you can compare.
Well, I mean, the list started at like 300 and I trimmed it down.
You had to make some cuts, some roster cuts. What's your Spotify so the people can follow you?
It's just Blaiden Kirk, probably. I don't know. But I don't know. I thought it'd be fun to compare all of our top 100 songs.
It would be. Maybe someday that'll make a graphic, but let's talk about the NBA here.
Let's do it.
And the playoffs that are currently happening.
I mean,
what game do we want to start with?
We kind of knew the West would be all over the place. The East is where things got a little bit wild and unexpected. So I think we can start kind of with the Knicks Heat. I think we had the Cavs coming out of the Knicks series, and I think we had and of course we had the Bucks coming out of that. I think I was the tiebreaker for the Cavs Knicks, but the Bucks losing to the Heat was the big one, and now the Heat are up 2-1 on the Knicks and looking like they could go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I don't know what else to say about the Heat other than, like, God bless Eric Spoelstra. I see someone named Highsmith out there, and haven't heard that name except for the guy who invented the sport, you know, and a bunch of undrafted free agents. You got Strus again, who he's made it up into a role player, old Kyle Lowry, and here they are against a Knicks team that had two guys playing, or at least one guy in Brunson playing like the best guard in the world. Like, he was playing at an elite level, and they had the 6th man of the year. They had more depth. It seemed like they may have had the best player going into the playoffs. But I think, Spoelstra can win you these types of games, and Jimmy Butler's taken it to a different level. And I think that's just the skinny of it mostly.
Yeah, I'm impressed how many good minutes they've gotten out of undrafted guys and out of
Zeller
and buyout as well. They're getting some minutes there. Playoff Zeller is crazy. And it comes down to their defense with the personnel they have. You got to really, really hand it to Spoelstra. I agree. Because they have a lot of guys who you would think you'd be able to attack, but it's just not the way that it goes. And as much hate as the Heat front office gets, maybe they deserve a little bit of credit for these guys who are end of bench being so playable. Because a lot of teams, they don't have it like that. Jimmy's obviously been really good. But, winning a game by 20 where you shot 27% if you're Miami is nuts. So, yeah.
Yeah, they can get to the line. They can knock down free throws. Obviously, they had the biggest free throw game, I think, ever this season at some point. It's just gritty, man. It's gritty. There's sand in the gears. They can't really, you can't really run what you want to run against them. And I think Tibbs also deserves some criticism on like who they have tried to have been attacking, like the famous incident game 1 where Jimmy got hurt and then stayed on the court and couldn't really move around. And yet they didn't go after him and they didn't make him a liability when he was moving around like one. I don't know. I think that coaching has really played the difference in this. And I tend to think that the sheer talent on the Knicks will win out in the end. I think that they still have a little bit more in the tank, that if they can get this next one, it's 2-2 and the rest of the way, maybe you think the Knicks have a bit more gas than the Heat do. So I actually think that the Knicks can still win this one. But Matt, what do you think? Who do you?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, Jimmy is the best player in this series, though. It just comes down to what is Thibodeau going to counter with here for what Spoelstra's thrown at him. But I think it's a reasonable pick. I don't want to pick every 2-1 series to go to the team that's up. So I don't think it's a bad take at all.
Would you lean for the Heat to pull this one out, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, they've got home court and they're up. So
yeah, we doubted them in the Minnesota series when they were up even 3-1, and holding off the Bucks is probably even a bit more difficult than holding back the Knicks. So it could definitely go either way. But you're right, Matt. I think predicting every 2-1 thing to go to the 2 team, I just think the Knicks have an extra gear that we all know is in there. They've got more potential than to be down 2-1 like this and lose a game where their opponent shot 27%. But yeah,
there was
discussion.
There was discussion of the Heat potentially blowing it up this off season. Where do they go from here? Let's say they lose this series. What is the path for them going forward?
I tended to lean blow it up. Pat Riley is probably not going to be around too much longer. This might be the time where you've taken this as far as you can take it, and maybe it's time to just completely change eras, trade Bam, trade Jimmy, because are they really close enough to adding one good player and winning the finals, if they can get a good player, because they don't have too many assets? Does the first round change anything? Does the win against the Bucks change anything about how I feel about that? I'm not totally sure. We'll have to see how this series goes, but I tend to still lean, you got to keep either running it back or blowing it up. I don't know if the base is, God, it's tough to say. What do you think, Matt?
I think you got to commit one direction or the other. I'll say that. It's got to be trade the picks or trade Jimmy, but that's really hard to do. I'll say this. The other lens you could look at this through is, there's just not a lot of options for Miami outside of trying to go trade for a big star. They don't have cap space, and they're not going to. They don't have other young, I guess I could move Hero around or whatever, sure, but if you're just trying to trade a young player straight up, you're not going to get back somebody better for him. That's just not how trading works. So if you want to offer the full pick package for whoever Siakam. I don't know who even really fits there. Go for it, I guess. But other than that, you're just going to, like, they're surprisingly good now, but this roster's still really far. So I honestly still would, but they're not going to do that. Jimmy's a Heat for lifer. So I just think they're probably going to stick with more minor moves. I really do, because I think they're going to get outbid on the big stars, and I just don't think they have the guts to trade Jimmy. I don't blame them, but it's tough.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum where there is no interpersonal relationships and it's 2K and you can do what you want, I think at this point, trading for the big star would end up being a mistake. It would be a big duo or a big two that just didn't quite it didn't quite go according to plan, like the Nets or the Nets again a couple of years earlier. I just think, like, when Jimmy is so old, it's tough to go all in on a window that could be shut at any point. You know, his legs could go soon and he can fall off a cliff, and that can happen pretty fast, where all of a sudden it's not a second star Jimmy like you're seeing now. It's a lesser version. And on top of that, if you were to make a trade, it would either impact your future so severely or your role players so severely, because it's not that many who are like really, really clearly above average. And I think getting rid of either of those would be a bit too much of a risk to take on when your superstar is as old as Jimmy is. And that's just, I think it's that simple. That's where I would be. But I don't know. They'll have to win this series. It may not matter if they win this one, and then everyone gets contracts for life because you keep going deep in the playoffs. And why break up a team that is always competitive? You know,
I guess I didn't realize Butler's 33.
Yeah, he's getting up there.
Tough. Yeah, let's say the Knicks were to lose. What would they have to do this offseason?
I don't know. I think it's still too early to say when they're up 2-1. I think that they are very exciting, and I think that it depends. I don't know. And it's the NBA offseason. There could be big trades that open up for big players, and maybe that might change my answer. The free agent class is not that special, so the answer would be probably something minor, and I think it depends on how the rest of the series goes.
I guess that's fair. Well, if you want to move over to, well, I guess we should wait on the Celtics Sixers since they're playing at the moment that we're recording this, and we'll try and get to a point where maybe this game gets a little bit closer to the end, or maybe it just ends altogether. Let's take a moment to switch over to the West, then we'll take a look at the Lakers and Warriors. Warriors ended up going to 7 with my Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox wasn't able to clutch it up in the end, playing on his broken hand or whatever, fighting for his life. And the Lakers are now up in this series against the Warriors. The Lakers are so bizarre. They don't make a shred of sense.
Well, I think they do now that the trade is done. I think that they're just long and crazy at defense these days,
I guess
and they've
fair.
got Anthony Davis, who can wreak havoc on both ends of the floor when he's on, and they've surrounded him with some decent talent at the deadline. I think that's the story of the season. I think once you realize that those were all really good moves, and D'Lo contributes and Vanderbilt contributes, like, yeah, it's just a straight up good team now. Matt, you had this. I thought the Warriors would be up and on their way to winning the series by now, and that's just not what's happened. What have you seen this series to make you think like the Lakers have got it or the Warriors have got it?
Well, I think Anthony Davis is really strong. He's playing like the best defensive player in the NBA right now. It's made it really tough for a Warriors team to get in the paint, and they're a team that's already very bad in the paint. The Lakers have done a good job slowing down the game and allowing Davis to get a little bit more set up in half court. Big talks about the free throw discrepancy. And that's a lot of it. I feel like for as good as Draymond is, he's had a lot of trouble handling the athleticism of Anthony Davis and of LeBron James. And when those guys are driving in, it's really tough. So they're able to draw a lot of free throws. And then on top of that, the Warriors' spacing is really not that great, considering that there's a lot of Looney Green lineups. There's not a lot of stretching the 5 out. So Anthony Davis is able to camp in the paint, and it's just all, a lot of jump shooting for the Warriors. And, obviously it's always been like that to some extent. But in this series, it's really rearing its head, right? So I think that's been a really big deal for them. You've also just got a lot of different guys who can handle the ball for the Lakers. Schroeder will have his game. D'Angelo Russell is finally stepping up a little bit more in the playoffs, so good for him. Reeves, although he's been kind of cold since game 1 of last series. So, it's been a mix of things for them. But a lot of it is the Lakers are just in a better position to get to the line. The Warriors are in a worse position to get to the line because of Anthony Davis. And that slows down the game, which helps the Lakers even more.
Yeah, I think it's a math problem. You've got a bunch of good interior defenders for the Lakers. It's kind of a smaller team that can't get there, and so they have to kick it out. And layups are more efficient than jump shots, and the team that gets more and free throws are more efficient than jump shots. And yeah, it's just a math problem. And it used to be that it was a math problem, and the Warriors just could score more 3-pointers than not, but I just don't think they're shooting at peak levels anymore, and they're opening themselves up to getting beat the other way. And that's what the Warriors are at this point. It's still very good. They're still extremely dynamic and can pull out this series, but I think that they're kind of relying more on luck, and the Lakers can lean on their way to win more consistently. And I think the Lakers have less ground to cover,
Well, another big part of it is all these screens, that the Warriors run. Obviously, they're famous for it. It's really tough because Anthony Davis is one of the few players in the NBA who can step up on those and have the speed to recover back inside. And it's just a very, very hard problem to solve if you're the Warriors. So
he's a wrecking ball. Like, the way to describe this series and really the playoffs in general is Anthony Davis on a big round metal thing getting swung around by a crane and knocking all over the bowling pins of the other team all over the place. That's a terrible analogy. One of the worst ever. But yes, he's ruining everything except for that one was worse than the Stormtroopers one. But yeah, I obviously it's more complicated than that, but you can't speak enough to the level that he's playing it at, except for game 2, where he was very bad offensively and kind of sunk them. But yeah, he's playing like the MVP of the playoffs right now. He's playoffs MVP, perhaps, if you wanted to give that award out, which we're not planning on doing, but I think I'd give it to him.
Yeah, I mean, if there has to be a discussion about like how much of a difference Anthony Davis getting back into his element has been for the Lakers. I mean, I just feel like this came out of. I mean, it kind of came out of nowhere.
It came out of being like somewhat healthy for the first time in a while. He was just in and out so much, and it feels like recently he's gone on a decent run of games here and played himself into better and better shape. Maybe, I don't know, but he's moving around really well out there for a 30-year-old guy who's always banged up. He looks great. So yeah, I think that behind that, the Lakers can win this series with the lead they've got.
Matt, are you still gonna lean the Lakers? I assume.
Yeah, I'll go Lakers in 6.
Lakers in 6. Nice. Well, what about LeBron? Because if Anthony Davis has been the key of success to this team, I mean, LeBron's still good, but like
he's a good number 2 at this point. Yeah, I think that you saw him take over at the end of the Grizzlies game, and his touch around the basket is still good. He's still relatively quick, I think, compared to the average player, but definitely not up to peak LeBron standards, which has hurt him a little bit in a myriad of ways. But he still has a bunch of, mid-range feel and touch around the basket, and can still contribute scoring on that end. And he can muster spurts of defensive brilliance as well, but it is not the whole game. But he's still good for some of those insane chase downs, but he can't keep that up all the time, which is kind of a theme to these playoffs and some of the guys with teams with older players.
Yep, it's just a consistency thing with him at this age. And that's not a slight on him. I also think that he just doesn't have the same quickness to get around like an Andrew Wiggins that he once did. So the big thing for him is just play within your role. You're still really good at moving the ball, which is kind of the important thing for the Lakers, and just don't settle for bad threes early in the shot clock.
I was about to say, I've seen a lot of criticism that he's just been chucking.
He has been. He is not. He has bricked his fair share of threes in these playoffs, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that he can still contribute. You just can't, say I'm LeBron James, I'm going to take over if that's not what you can do. And don't jack up several threes if you can't hit most of them. Just know your role, LeBron, which I think that he is smart enough to do. I hope so. And yeah, I think that he can be a positive force for the Lakers going forward for sure. And I think he has been.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to your Phoenix Suns, Theo, and the Nuggets. What's up with Kevin Durant?
What's up with Kevin Durant is a lot of turnovers. And I think, I don't know. He's played a lot of minutes in these series because he's had to, because the Suns are very thin because they traded for Kevin Durant, and he's coming off an injury. He is old and he's playing 40 plus minutes, and it really has to put the team on his back. Booker, it cannot be said enough that he is in the peak of his prime right now. I think like what he is doing with a bad team around. I mean, some of these lineups around him are just terrible. He doesn't get to the rim. It's no free throws. It is just Kobe-esque mid-range and 3-point excellence. He's really the only reason that they're in this at all, and really the only reason that they even got past the Westbrook Clippers, I think, is the play of Devin Booker on both ends of the court right now. It's unbelievable to watch, but I don't think it's enough. I think the Nuggets just have the better best player, and they have more players in general. They're deeper lineups, better lineups. And when you've got the star power advantage, it seems like, and the depth advantage, it feels like the Suns just staved off the inevitable is kind of how I'm feeling about their Game 3 win.
Matt, how do you feel about the Suns and Kevin?
I think they've got, a pretty shallow team, and then Ayton is just never really giving you everything that you wanted from him. He doesn't match up well with Jokic. And it's like, man, how much higher he is in a replacement level center, I would seriously question at this point, unfortunately. Then, Chris Paul is a little bit older. I agree. They're not really attacking inside all that much, which is really the way you would like to beat this Nuggets team, considering Jokic is at the 5, but Aaron Gordon has been such a problem that it's not easy. And you can, there's worse things than living and dying by the jump shot when it's Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I do get it. But you wish they could get a little bit more consistency going towards the basket.
Yeah, it's jarring to watch, really. It's jarring to watch. And the role players are just so bad. It's campaign minutes are not it. And Ayton, like Landale is, I guess that's the one role player minute that's going all right is Jock Landale. But the problem with him having good minutes is it's better than the starting center, which is Ayton. I mean, he has completely fallen apart. It feels like he's been good in previous playoff runs. Going to the finals, he was extremely key, but it just feels like mistake after mistake from him, and it feels like needs a lot of help out there right now. And I mean, I can't help but wonder after this series what his future in Phoenix looks like, because they gave him that contract. They took him back after the Pacers signed him, and he has not really rewarded them with a stellar season. He's not good going up around the basket. He commits dumb fouls. He tries to jump shots and gives up, positioning. It's weird. His attention to detail is really plummeted, which is just bizarre as a player gets older and older.
We thought, or we were looking at him potentially getting moved last offseason. That didn't happen. Man, you really would have liked to have seen. Yeah,
it would have been nice to have moved him last year, because right now I don't know what you're moving him for now that he's got years left on a contract that does not look that good. I mean, he's getting outplayed by Landale. Like he's not a positive force out there at all. And what's the use of that if a guy is on a huge contract? You're trading for the contract too, not just the potential of a former first overall pick.
Right.
You really would have liked him for him to be very good and like a number 1 overall pick tier guy. And they kept hoping and hoping and hoping, and it's really going downhill fast. Kevin Durant is a big Band-Aid, but they gave up depth to do it. And I just don't know if this is a better version of the Suns than what we've seen in years past that have gone so far. And it's something I probably should have seen earlier, but I'm not optimistic now.
I mean, this was what you knew it was like, well, either we're going to be really good right now at the sacrifice of, okay, we're going to give up depth, right? That was like you were willing to make that sacrifice because you thought Kevin Durant would be enough, but
it's not. It's not
enough. And now you're to the point where it's like, well, what do you do next year? Like, how do you get better from this, or do you just kind of have to let the pain run its course?
I don't know. I think you got to do something. I think that's why they get paid $1 million to build a basketball team. I think that you got to work the phones. I think that moving Ayton for anything would be a decent amount, would be a good thing if you could find some team out there that wants him based on his potential. I think that's the ideal. And then find free agents, good ones. They know better than me. Find good free agents, guys. I think that their trading days are over. They don't really have good role players to trade, and I don't think you want to go too much all in on an old player like KD, like much like Jimmy Butler. I think that it could be a little bit risky to trade too many future assets to go all in if they get eliminated in this round. But yeah, I don't know. I hope they do something good. I think it's pretty tough. I think that they kind of made a lot of moves already, and there's only so many of those you can make. But as far as the Nuggets go, how are we feeling about their chances to win the whole thing? I think they kind of look like, I know they're coming off a loss, and maybe I'm too pessimistic, but I think they may not be the best team in the West, and we could actually see a Jokic finals run. What are your thoughts on that?
It's totally possible. I mean, they were the 1 seed for a reason. It all comes down to, can they make the defense work while putting their best players on the court? As of this point, I feel like they've done a pretty good job of it. But we'll see how that goes when they go up against the Warriors or the Lakers. I kind of want to see that matchup before I get strong opinions on it. But I think Anthony Davis on Jokic would be, or Jokic on Anthony Davis would be very, very interesting. Because I'll tell you this, man, he can't get, like, Draymond gets in foul trouble, Looney gets in foul trouble, that's one thing. Jokic gets in foul trouble, that's another. And if he's not getting in foul trouble, then I'd wonder if Anthony Davis is going crazy. They'd probably try to put Aaron Gordon on him, but then, it's like, then who's on LeBron? And I think the matchups become tough. So what
I'm hearing is LeBron to the finals is the message I'm getting.
Oh yeah.
Bron.
Maybe. It's not impossible.
I think
crazy, but it's not impossible.
There's a crash course to it right now. I do like the way the Nuggets have built this thing out, and I worried about their depth. I worried about their ability to, have their best five on the court and still defend. And maybe that does come up more with a team like the Lakers, who can actually score around the rim, as opposed to the Suns, who cannot. But they've played some pretty good defense, and the role players, I think, have all stepped up. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been absolutely massive for them. Aaron Gordon has been fantastic as well. Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray have been, making shots at a high level. Maybe KD and Booker, like Booker is playing just otherworldly right now, and maybe that it's enough to make this a series, and KD gets hot too, it can happen. But right now, it just is too many guys in too many waves for a team top heavy like the Suns to contend with. They've been able to steal a game, and maybe they can just light it up. It is possible with these two. But yeah, I think that if the Nuggets role players play like they currently do, it's tough to point to a huge weakness, because their depth, has been fantastic.
I do want to throw back to DeAndre Ayton real quick. If he were to get moved, who would be a good landing spot, or who could
maybe the Pacers again? They liked him last time. They tried to sign him, and the team looks about the same now as it did last year, right? So I'd probably say a team like that.
I'd say it's a pretty early discussion, but I think he'd be very tough to move.
I think so too. I think that really it would be a move. I think that is a bit of a pipe dream to say someone's going to give up a lot for him at this point, which is bad. Bad for the Suns.
Bad for the Suns. We're stepping into summer, and that means you need to make sure you're prepared with some nice looking sunglasses protecting your eyes from the sun. And let me tell you about Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rivaling tons of other brands that I've tried in the past. They've got you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and so much more. We've all had our fair share of great sunglasses from Shady Rays. Theo, I know you like to use them when you go out fishing on the water. It's a different kind of experience, isn't it, man?
Yeah, I don't even have them for my visual aid today. Usually I'm wearing them in all of these because I left them in my car because I was using them because you don't need to just fish to use these glasses. Let's make that very clear. You can also just drive around in the late evening and see the road a bit better. And that's what I was doing. And so it was great.
Matt, I know you're a big golfer as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Out on the course, you need to protect your eyes, man. You need to be able to see.
Absolutely. I see people out there without sunglasses. I don't know how they do it. I hate
They'll go blind one day.
So true. Me, I just look at the sun whenever I get the chance. No problem. All thanks to my Shady Rays.
I don't think we could say that.
You can look at the sun for up to 10 full minutes.
Young kids, another big announcement for the young listeners.
Be a man. Stare at the sun. Anyway,
sorry.
Exclusively for our listeners now, Shady Rays is offering their best deal of the new year. So make sure you head on over to shadyrays.com and use the code STAYHOT and get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses and try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. Get Shady Rays, making an impact together. Now we can get into the 76ers and Boston Celtics. And we waited and gave y'all a favor by waiting till the end of the game that happened while we were recording. And oh my God, I'm glad we did. What a game 4. James Harden pulls out an incredible performance. Embiid had 30, partway through the fourth quarter, and then it started to look like he was shying away a little bit. And
a lot of double teams sent his way, and the 76ers rarely do anything to give him any help with those. I mean, when it's Embiid backing down from the left and every other shooter is on the right, very few guys outside of Jokic can make that pass to get it over if you're helping off the right corner. And the 76ers are just very content. They want him to make that hockey pass, but it's really tough when it's like 3 people around. You just give your guys a lot of time to recover. It's not a shocker that, the one time where he's getting down the middle a little bit and the help comes right from the corner, he can make that pass to Harden and get him open. So, as much as I think Harden or Embiid is not some like crazy high level passer, I think it's up to the 76ers to put him in a position where there's a good play to make. Run some off ball screens. If somebody is, if somebody's cheating off of you that late, get going towards the basket, get ahead of steam so Embiid can get it to you. Instead of just, going one on, just 2-on-1 and just hope he figures something out.
Yeah, and that pass to Harden was not an easy one. He had to kind of reach around the closing defender, and shout out James Harden. He was able to reach way outside of his frame and make that and snag that pass before getting into his shooting motion. That's not easy to do. It's easy to get off balance when you're moving that much. And he knocked it down. Also, Al Horford in the fourth quarter, like tons of blocks, really seemed to affect Embiid when he was one-on-one and when he was going up for a shot. Horford was there to knock it away. But at the end of the day, like the Sixers won the game. And the refs there were some interesting decisions towards the end.
The push off. Oh my God.
I can't believe they didn't call that. Poor Maxey getting penalized for playing an honest man's game and actually trying to recover. He should have gone flying back like an anime, and they would have ejected Jason Tatum and suspended him for the rest of the year.
His son.
I mean,
you got a generational ban.
But shout out to Maxey for trying. in spite of it all. It was a really bad
I thought
call.
it was a really good contest from him at the end of the day for him to recover from flying
someone that
backwards
size
like that. And
pushing you, yeah. I don't know how any other way to look at that. If that's not a push off, then
Yeah.
go crazy.
Ball don't
I
lie.
guess.
Ball don't lie.
Ball don't
And that's
lie,
what that overtime period was. And the Marcus Smart charge. I thought his feet were still moving. That's just me. And I know on the broadcast,
his left foot was moving, but they were saying because like his right foot was still planted.
I thought I
they were
got
inside of
that
his
decision.
frame.
I could have seen that one either way, but the push off absolutely should have been called.
Yeah, I agree. I think as far as the rest of this series goes, it seems like, I mean, the lowest common denominator thought that I have is when James Harden goes off, the Sixers win, and when he doesn't, they lose.
I agree.
Are you noticing this too, Matt?
I'm noticing that when James Harden scores 40 points, the 76ers usually do pretty good.
I don't know. It just feels like they're a little bit too dependent on him to win two close games that come down to milliseconds. And in the first matchup, why can't I remember off the top of my head of that one? Oh, the turnover by Brogdon was the notable event there. So these Harden absolute masterclasses are needed to eke out a close victory that could have gone either way. And as fun as they are, and as cool it is to see James Harden performing at this level, can that be consistent enough, do you think? Or are there ways to win that they haven't quite exploited, where they can overcome kind of a Harden stinker? Like, what chance do you give the 76ers the rest of the way?
Yeah, I think they got like a 42% chance of winning this series.
I think they have a 43% chance. That is
wrong. Your
a crazy number to
sucks.
say.
Your database is wrong or whatever. I just really, really, really think Harden is probably just going to be a little inconsistent at this point. But when he, keep running the pick and roll action with Embiid, and if you're going to have Embiid post up, give him some real help with some guys moving around. You have the players to do it. They just don't. I mean, if you were the Celtics, you'd just keep sending double teams at Embiid, and you'd say, yeah, go ahead, make the pass and beat us if you guys are just going to stand still. A little bit too much of that, in my opinion, for a team that I think has, with Harris and Maxey and I guess PJ Tucker.
Yeah, you saw them run that play at the very first play of overtime. They basically ran an end around Harden to Maxey, and Maxey's just the fastest player in the league, and he was able to blow by somebody. And you're right. There is a lot of standing around, and you had minutes to plan for it, right? Like coming into overtime, like, what are we going to start with? That was good. But I agree that there is a bit of standing around and it's kind of stagnant, and the effort is low a lot of the time for the 76ers. So I think that if they play smarter, they can reach a potential that they haven't quite reached yet. Even when James Harden plays poorly, when he can mask a lot of those issues when he plays like this. But we'll need to see a bit more effort, and I'd like to see them win a game not being reliant on Harden. Yeah, and or at least keep it close. Like at least lose by 2 and have it be 3-2. But Harden played poorly, and we still kept it close. And we just need maybe we can win like that, and then we get one more Harden good game. I don't know what the mindset would be, but
as far as lack of effort goes. I mean, I noticed the broadcast kept bringing up like PJ Tucker. Tucker was becoming a very vocal.
The effort was good in the last minute of this intense game or so. But overall in this series, it has been an issue for Doc Rivers and the 76ers. What were you going to say, Matt?
I'm going to say, I mean, I think it comes down to Harden because the Celtics are focused on not letting Embiid beat them. Even though he had 30 tonight, you saw in the last 8 or so minutes of this game how focused they were on that. And if you've got a guy who's consistently drawing double teams, that should be a win for you every time. You should win off that every time. That should not be a disaster. It should be great, perfect. And like a double team is overused and like the grand scheme of like talking about basketball. He honest to God double teams here. Ridiculous help towards Embiid. If you can't capitalize off that, that's on you. So If the 76ers want to win this series, it's going to come down to getting some more actions off the ball when Embiid is posting up, or doing a better job of spacing around and being in the right spots, even just rotating to where it makes sense. Just rotate behind, like rotate so where if he's backing someone down, have somebody right there across the corner. I just don't get why they don't do that more. I just don't. And maybe they don't trust Embiid to make the pass, but I don't think he's that bad of a passer, man.
Yeah.
So
do you think they need to be more active earlier in the shot clock? I feel like there's a lot of standing around in the first 8 to 10 seconds.
Them and every other team in the NBA. Yeah, I agree. You're right. It's not a bad call. It's just a lot of teams do that. And it's easy to say that, but then you get, it's like, how many minutes did Harden and Embiid have? Things got tired. I could say the same thing about the Celtics. I mean, they were pretty stagnant too.
But I think if you're facing a lot of double teams, right, that eats up a lot of time in its own right. So I'm like, you need to already be more cautious.
Yeah, if you're gonna go with the Embiid back downs, do it early in the shot clock. You got 5 seconds. You don't give him the option to make that pass. Or if the right play is maybe 3 passes away because of rotation, you absolutely need to have time to do that. So I 100% agree. I think this type of stuff leads to a lot of Embiid games where the numbers don't look that good, but the amount of attention he's drawing is always going to be there. So, man.
His gravity. He can't have a bad game.
His gravity.
He's just like Curry.
He's 70. He thought he was when he took that step back 3.
Well, I mean, that's a good point of them not getting into their stuff sooner, where it's like they're just standing around. It's just, and I know a lot of it is. I'm sure Harden had 47 minutes tonight. Brutal.
Yeah,
but
God, yeah, that's crazy.
We'll see, man.
I love Derek White. That's another takeaway from this. He's awesome and has extreme amounts of dog in him. And that's just kind of what's cool about the Celtics is everyone, their starting 5 all has that and can all match up, and they're so big and switchable. And I think, like we pointed out before, they're not the greatest in terms of moving the ball around. That can get them hung up. Maybe playing a bit too much ISO or taking, contested mid-rangers by Tatum can leave them with some inconsistencies in the playoffs. But yeah, I think that's kind of what bit them tonight was his inconsistent first half. If he doesn't have 2 in that first half, they probably win the game, even though he pulled it together. That can sink the Celtics for sure. But, they've still got all that defense, all that switchability, that shot making, they have enough in terms of playmaking and rebounding and all that. So I still do think that they're the most well-rounded team in the league and will eventually win the title, I think is my take. But they're far from perfect, and the 76ers are super talented if they can just maximize their potential like this every night. But that's a big if.
Yeah. Celtics just get stagnant. They were stagnant too, man. I'm telling you, they got very lucky with that Tyrese push off.
Yeah.
They got very lucky with that. That was obvious. That was a really bad call. So their closing out of games has not been awesome. But 2 times in this series.
But if But if they don't have Harden going for 40, then they don't need to close out anyway. So
I guess
they need to close. They were the worst team in the league, I think, in difference in I think offensive rating in closing out games.
How many times did the announcers say today, Mazzulla's just going to let him go? Just going to let him just go do whatever. You got a timeout, buddy.
Yeah.
You've got a timeout. You've got a bunch of guys who can hit a shot. You have a lot of different actions you can run, and it's just kind of go get us out of this one, please. And now it's 2-2, and it's largely for this reason. That's he had multiple chances to draw up a play that could have won them the game, and just punted on both of them. Yeah, that's not good.
I think faith in your players is good to have. I think to say but what about faith in your players running the play you designed and, talking about it? That's still faith in your players to get it done, right? They don't need to talk to me. Let's keep them in the flow. It's like the flow is just put them behind, and now you need a big shot.
They're in some faith in your play calling too. Your players are going to have to play well regardless. You got to trust them to hit a shot. You can't go out there,
right?
But you should feel like you can draw something up.
the best teams are combine brilliant coaching and brilliant players. And it's like, well, there is no brilliant coaching happening here. You're hoping the players are brilliant. I mean, I'm sure that he's coaching some things and yelling things out, but yeah, man, you should have an Andy Reid in your back pocket.
This series could be over.
You know is going to work. Yeah,
this series could be done now. You could be chilling if you could. Instead, you're not getting a shot off, which I know it was close. So you can say whatever, maybe, a tenth of a second difference, but you don't want to be running down the clock that bad. It's still not a shot.
It could have been faster. Definitely.
I'm going to trust in my players and they throw the ball to the other team.
Then it doesn't go in.
They don't get anything going because the shot clock was winding down in that one too. So, and I know a lot of it is too, Harden has just hit big shots. He's had a couple of really big shots, but man, you put yourself in those positions if you're the Celtics, and it's tough because, no one is sitting here. I'm not sitting here thinking any of these teams are unstoppable. If you're the Celtics, you should really feel like, man, this is our year to do it. And it would be very frustrating if they lose to the 76ers. It's really a disaster because I think the
window is wide open.
Everybody.
Yeah, the window is wide open right now. This is the year. This is the year to do it. It gets way, way harder after this. It will never be as easy as it is right now. If you get past
you
the
avoided
Sixers.
The Bucks entirely.
Yes, you're probably going to play the 8th seed in the conference finals. Like, it is never easier than it is right now. It will never be easier.
They're going to play 40-year-old LeBron in the finals.
I have to believe. Yeah, I have to believe that they pull it together and win this one. And I guess same for the Sixers. It will never be easier than right now. You have Embiid playing at the best level of his career, and you also
healthy.
Get to play you also probably get to play the 8th seed Heat if you win. So it's two teams who feel like may never have a better chance than this, and it feels like this. It feels like the Sixers are a bit more desperate for a miracle than the Celtics are, but the Celtics can't keep giving them games. There is no miracles. Everything happened because the players made it so. The reason it was close in that opportunity was because the players made it so. Also, shout out Doris Burke. I love Doris Burke, man. She was on one calling this game, like noticing things and being
the calling was great.
Yeah, like pointing out that Missoula's not calling his timeout, like, oh, look at him, he's not going to call it. And I thought that she was very good. And you know who her voice reminds me of? And I just realized this. Have you guys watched The Sopranos?
I have not.
Oh, yeah.
Melfi. She sounds like Melfi from The Sopranos. It's just like this basketball Melfi announcing the game for you. It's awesome. I just wanted to shout out Doris Burke for being like that kind of announcer because she was very, very. I loved her enthusiasm. They said like, and the color commentator was like, no, the play-by-play commentator said, it almost seems like Horford's getting in Embiid's head. And then she was like, oh, totally, absolutely. That's what it is. I thought that was a very good interaction.
That would be a really funny video. NBA commentators as the cast of The Sopranos.
She would definitely be or just like TV show characters around. I don't know any other examples, but I do know that that's who she reminds me of. And it's a good voice to listen to, man. Dr. Melfi, yeah. She could talk to me all day. So yes.
No, it was just overall a fun, 10 minutes of
crowd
basketball
was really
to
into
watch.
it.
I don't normally listen to the audio when I watch, but I was like,
oh, brother.
But I was like, okay, we got 3 minutes, and then it went to overtime. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm into this. So
the announcers add so much, man. This is a bad take. I know we've already got into it.
I know. I enjoyed it.
You should listen to them.
It was a plus. It was a net positive to listen to the announcers this time around. But announcers get too much. It isn't always.
Announcers get too much shit, man. Like a lot of them get hated. You know how hard announcing was. I think I know a decent amount about the sport. If you put me in a box and told me to think of things on the fly to say, I'd be like,
it's an incredibly hard job. I'm not saying that it's an easy job or that anyone could do it. I just normally don't.
It's just not background. You got to appreciate these guys at the top of their craft,
Just we gotta analyze the announcers just like we do the actual sport.
I would just analyze the announcers. I've been really listening to the announcers lately, and then I listened to one on Bally Sports. I was like, this is not good compared to what the main networks have. Sorry, Bally Sports, but I don't
Fair
know.
enough.
Burke delivered an awesome performance tonight. Harlan has been he's a playoff riser for sure. Some of these announcers are playoff risers, and those are the important ones that really, I don't know, ones that really do a good job raising their own intensity to the intensity of the moment, and I don't think the play-by-play guy is a playoff riser tonight. I don't know who it was off the top of my head. He's not as good as some of the others, but Burke is.
Burke.
I don't know. I've been talking about announcers for a long time now. You guys have any announcer takes?
No.
Not off the top of my head. No,
Well, if you think of any, I would love to hear them. I've been really into just listening to the announcers.
Well, I'll let you know.
And judging them.
Before we get out of here, who do we think is going to win this series?
I think the Celtics have still got it. I think it'll be Celtics and Knicks, just like I said in the tweet that I deleted. That's the Knicks I've lost faith in the Knicks when they've looked bad once and then they rebounded, and I'm not going to make the same mistake again. So Celtics, Knicks, Nuggets, and Lakers is, I think, going to be the final four.
Matt?
Yeah, I probably still lean the Celtics. You've needed some really legendary Harden performances to keep it close.
You just can't bank on those all the time. Yeah, I think that's fair. So, unless you guys have anything else, I think we can wrap this up, get on out of here, and we'll continue to watch these series closely, get ready for the conference finals, which, again, are looking so different than we possibly could have imagined.
We could have possibly imagined it.
I mean, sure. Someone is over here.
We could have done a better job.
No.
Let's all be real with ourselves. It is imaginable.
Okay,
we should have imagined better. Sorry,
been
guys.
more creative. Creative analysis.
We should have seen it coming. Next time,
I'll look into the crystal ball next time, and I'm
going to think way better next time, guys. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. Very excited for how these series could play out. And until next time, from your favorite boys at Stay Hot, we'll catch y'all on the flippity flop.